The American Super Mario Bros. 2 is on the Nintendo Entertainment System is actually a modified version of the Japanese Famicom Disk System game Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, which roughly translates as Dream Factory, Heart-Pounding Panic, while the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 is what we call the Lost Levels. And of course, Shigeru Miyamoto worked on both games, and Koji Kondo did the music for both games. Knowing that Doki Doki Panic was based on the Japanese TV show Yume Kojo for Fuji Television. In total, AJ Styles has won numerous championships in World Wrestling Entertainment, Total Nonstop Action, before it rebranded to Global Force Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, etc. I tell you, that's a lot of accomplishments for a great wrestler like AJ Styles. And no, he's not related to ECW commentator Joey Styles. Remember that, folks. Remember that. The Sony PlayStation was launched on December 3rd, 1994 in Japan, not long after Sega's Sega Saturn was released in Japan that same year. Then the Sony PlayStation was released in America on September 9th, 1995, which was a few months after the Sega Saturn was released in America. But a few months before the Sega Saturn, we had the Sega Genesis 32X, which was a big failure, despite having only one good game, Knuckles Chaotix, starring Knuckles the Echidna. The father of the Sony PlayStation was Ken Kutaragi, who actually started working on the PlayStation in the early 90s. Johann Strauss Jr. was officially called the Waltz King. Johann Strauss has composed numerous waltzes, polkas, among other things, including Tales from the Vienna Woods, the Blue Danube Waltz, the Kaiser Waltz, Die Fledermaus, all of it. And trust me, Johann Strauss Jr. was truly a wonderful waltz king, because his waltzes are like some of the most beautiful waltzes in the world. In fact, Nobuo Uematsu has actually used some inspiration from Strauss. That's right, the incomparable Nobuo Uematsu, from the Final Fantasy series. And speaking of the Final Fantasy games, the music works better when it's done in orchestral form. Not that MIDI stuff, just the orchestral arrangements. Yo-Noid is a Capcom video game for the Nintendo Entertainment System based on the popular Domino's Pizza character, made out of clay. Is actually a reskin of the Japanese Famicom game Kamen no Ninja Hanamaru. And both of these games were released by Capcom in 1990, around the time the Super Famicom was released, with Super Mario World. El Mundo de Super Mario. In Spain, it is officially known as the Kingdom of Spain, or Reino de España. The biggest cities in Spain are Madrid and Barcelona, and they speak Español Castellano, which is Castilian Spanish. The traditional French baguette, le baguette de tradition française, is the star of a typical French breakfast. You open it up and butter it and jam. You also find it next to croissant, chocolate, and orange juice. I tell you, France is really serious about their food and drinks. Cheeses, breads, and wines. And some of France and Germany's biggest cheeses are Camembert and Limburger, while Italy's are mozzarella and provolone. And I tell you, all those foreign countries really have impressive looking cheeses, including Camembert and Limburger, along with mozzarella and provolone from Italy. And us Americans are filled to the brim with cheeses, including Wisconsin cheese, Gouda, cheddar, mild cheddar, pepper jack, Swiss, you name it. And Gorgonzola. The Konami code was first used in the 1986 release of Gradius for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was popular enough that it was used again for Contra in 1988. The Konami code is up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. In fact, Konami have used it in many, many Konami-made games, including Contra, Castlevania, Silent Hill, and Metal Gear Solid, which was mostly done by Hideo Kojima. And Castlevania Symphony of the Night was mostly done by Koji Igarashi. You know, creating the famous Metroidvania style games. My absolute favorite is Castlevania Order of Ecclesia for the Nintendo DS, which